Good morning, it's Mark at Top Local Lead Generation. We're here with Bernie Pawlik. He's the owner of Pawlik Automotive. They're an award-winning shop in Vancouver. They've been voted best auto repair in Vancouver 14 times by their client, which is a pretty amazing kind of record. How are you doing this morning, Bernie?
Really good. Very good.
So Jeeps was what we're going to talk about today, and they're a very popular vehicle, sport utility, and I assume you work on a lot of them.
Yes, we do. Yeah, we worked on a lot of them, and we worked on them for years. I tend to think of Jeep as being like the original sport utility vehicle, not the Jeep, but the Cherokee and the Grand Cherokee. Although I guess you could argue the Suburban came first, but that's almost too big to be utilitarian. It's more beast than sport beast, if you could call it. But the Cherokee is smaller and a little sportier and more useful in that way. Jeeps are interesting history. I mean, they were originally an army vehicle, and Jeeps actually stood for GP, which means general purpose. They've always been popular with a certain crowd, but when they started introducing some more mainstream models like the Cherokee and the Grand Cherokee, which goes back a few decades, the brand became very popular. There's an interesting corporate history with Jeep. I mean, they used to be a private company at one time making army vehicles, and then then they sold their vehicles to the general public. And then they became a part of American Motors for a long time, until Chrysler bought out American Motors. And really, the only thing of value at AMC at that time was the Jeep brand, and they captured it, and Chrysler's done really well with it.
So, how are Jeeps? Excuse me. Are they bulletproof, like their reputation? Are they reliable? What goes wrong with them?
Well, I tend to think of Jeeps as so-so vehicles. They definitely have issues. I mean, where to start? First of all, they're all-wheel drive trucks, so they're more complex, and they need more service. There's the transfer case, there's the extra front differential. Now, this is true of all four-wheel drive cars and trucks. There's extra service or more complexity, but a lot of all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive vehicles are pretty reliable, like Subarus, which we talk about a lot. And work on a lot. The four-wheel drive systems rarely cost a lot of extra, but on Jeeps, a lot more seems to go wrong with them. The original style Jeep is a fairly simple vehicle, but they have a few issues that kind of come to my mind, are things like oil leaks and more fluid changes and just the general wear and tear you get with a four-wheel drive vehicle. Some Jeep engines have been really, really good. Spectacular, in fact. Like the 4-liter 6-cylinder straight six engine, it's a really tough, reliable engine. I've had a number of clients over the years who haven't changed their oil as often as they should. Quite frankly, abuse the engine, and they just keep on going. So I've really only ever seen one or two go bad. So that's a pretty impressive record. A lot of the pushrod V8 engines too are really good. Like these are like the 318 and the 360. Some of them are like the Dodge engines. They're just bulletproof, reliable, really good. But there are some that aren't so good. Those would be like the 3.7 liter V6, the 4.7 liter V8 engine that you find in different models of Jeeps. 3.7 is very popular in the Liberty. They perform well, but they're prone to some expensive repairs. We've had some, it's fairly common, where the valve seats actually fall out. This is like an internal engine problem that's really expensive to fix and something that should never happen, but it does. The timing chains also wear out prematurely, and especially if you don't change your oil enough. This is the kind of engine where you have to change your oil every 5,000 kilometers or you're asking for trouble. And there's a lot of cars like that, and people don't know that, and you won't really know that until you find one that gets abused. But anyways, if you have one of these vehicles, change your oil religiously. Jeeps also offered some kind of anemic 4-cylinder engines in some of their vehicles, and I tend to avoid them. Although they have some more modern vehicles like the Jeep Compass, they come with 4 cylinders, and they seem to be pretty good. But the older traditional Jeeps or Cherokees with 4 cylinders, I'd stay away from them. They're just kind of wimpy engines that don't run too well. What else can I say here? Other complex issues I've seen, like Grand Cherokee, sometimes I think they're built too complicatedly to be repaired, for easy repairs. Example, some Grand Cherokees, to repair the radiator, it takes hours to pull the radiator out. They've got a complex fan arrangement, and it just makes a job that could be $500, it's $1,000, and it's just hard to talk to Jeep owners and go, hey, you need a new radiator, it's going to be $1,000. So, but there's nothing you can do. That's just the way it's built. So those are some of my thoughts on the repair side of things.
So Jeep has sold a few diesels recently. How are they?
Some of them are good, especially the Grand Cherokee. I mean, the Jeep Grand Cherokee diesel is basically a Mercedes 3-liter diesel. It's the same Mercedes diesel you find in the ML320, the R320. It's used on a lot of different platforms, and they seem to share the same transmission as well. So the drivetrain is partially Mercedes. It's quite reliable. It is expensive to fix when things go wrong, but overall, I mean, I'm kind of a big fan of German diesel engines. They're good. They're well built. They've been around for a long time, so it's a good vehicle. We seem to work on a lot of them, and generally they're pretty good, but they do have a few issues here and there. There's also the Liberty uses a diesel as well. It's not nearly as common. I was trying to figure out who actually makes this diesel engine, and I can't really tell who makes it. It's not made by Jeep themselves. It's not a Mercedes diesel. It's a 4-cylinder. It's a pretty good engine, but I don't like it as much as the Grand Cherokee diesel. It just seems a little unusual in its design, and it's a rare offering, so parts are more difficult to get for it.
Any final thoughts on Jeeps?
Well, Jeep certainly has its following. Many people love Jeeps. They like the original style Jeeps. They seek them out. It's the Wrangler I'm talking about. It's got its utilitarian look, its function, and whatever people associate with the free, fun-loving, remove the roof kind of lifestyle. And it's also a good off-road vehicle. As many Jeeps are. So if you like to go off-road, that's a great vehicle for that. The Grand Cherokee, I mean, they've also created a very nice, luxurious sport utility vehicle. And that appeals to an entirely different crowd. And personally, I like the Grand Cherokees, but I find a lot of them they're gas guzzlers. They almost epitomize what's wrong with the American car industry. Gas guzzlers, inefficient vehicles, but I mean they are certainly nice. And the overly complicated construction that I've seen in a few model years has kind of turned me off a bit of them. But they are certainly a great vehicle. One positive thing I find about Jeeps, like especially the original style, the Wrangler type of Jeep, is that they hold their value and they last for a long time. There's not that many vehicles like that. There are many cars and trucks that people buy where they'll be around for 10, 15 years and then they're off to the scrapyard and you'll never see them again. But Jeeps, they'll stay around for a long time. They're kind of like convertibles. And certain sports cars, they have a long lifespan. So that's it for me on Jeeps.
Thanks, Bernie. My throat is let go, so
no problem. I'll finish up. Thank you. I look forward to talking to you again soon.